All right, I'm going to invite everyone in. Commissioner, people should be joining right now. If you want to give it just 30 seconds, then you can start.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. They're filing in, and I think we're about there. All right, good evening, everybody. My name's Jordan Sheff. I'm the commissioner at the Department of Developmental Services, and this is I forget which number in a series of informational sessions we are hosting throughout May, and we'll continue to have additional sessions late this summer, early fall, to share with you then. So I want to first say thank you for taking time out of your busy day or your busy evening to spend some time with us while we plan to tell a story and share some information about tonight, specifically self-determination. But each of these sessions is a little different. So please, I encourage you to sign up for as many of them as you are able and interested to do. One of the reasons we're doing these is that earlier this year, we had been promoting some of the work we're doing around something called ARPA and plans regarding that. And we wanted to, we've heard from stakeholders that there's some confusion about some of the terms we're using and the way we're using those terms. And we're going to spend a little bit of time tonight. I'll turn it over to, in a moment, to our deputy commissioner, who will walk through some of that. But we wanted to take time to tie out some of those things and make that clear for you all. And we also wanted to take some time to highlight some of the exciting work we are currently engaged in. And hopefully it will stimulate you to ask some questions and participate later in the meeting when we have questions and answers. With that, I want to say again, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking part. And for me, what'll be a once in a lifetime opportunity to help transform the system, to prepare it to be ready for continued growth, for the expansion of services, to offering new and different services, and hopefully offering supports to even more people than we currently do. So thank you for joining. And without further ado, Elisa, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Welcome, everyone. I'm Elisa Velardo, Deputy Commissioner for DDS. And I'll share a little bit about where we are with STEP and some communication that's happening at this point in time. So over the last year or more, DDS has worked with a variety of stakeholders, individuals, family members, private providers, DDS staff, and we've developed a plan on how we'll use those funds that the commissioner referenced, the ARPA funds, to produce more opportunities within our DDS system. As the commissioner said, we're focused on enhancing and highlighting services that promote choice, independence, and integration. I want to encourage you to take that next step and work with your support teams to find meaningful opportunities for greater independence in your lives, whether it's where you live or where you work. Next slide, please. So as the commissioner noted, this is one of many forums. In addition to today's forum on self-direction, we also are highlighting the following core supports: assistive technology, remote supports, employment, individualized home support, also known as IHS, supportive housing, and community companion homes. Next slide, please. Our vision for STEP ensures that you and your loved ones will feel empowered, valued, and respected. We want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to become more independent and participate fully in their community. I want to highlight some of the things we have done and some things that we are looking forward to, and as we look ahead for upcoming events in the months ahead. Next slide, please. So we want to ask you to keep an eye out for our newly created STEP videos. These will be coming out soon, and there is a video in each of those areas that I mentioned. There are also one-page information sheets full of information about how you can get started with each of those 7 highlighted services. And I think there will be a link in the chat for a one-page info sheet about STEP. We also hope that you've received the STEP newsletter in the mail that contains STEP updates and information about the 7 services that we are highlighting, as well as upcoming events. The newsletter is also available on our website if you've not received it in the mail. I also encourage you to sign up for our e-newsletter, as we're hoping to begin reaching more people via email. You can find the link to sign up for our email updates. I think that'll be put in the chat section as well. I want to echo the commissioner's comments and encourage those of you with case managers or with access to the helpline to reach out and ask about more information on how these highlighted options might fit within your individualized plan. And like the commissioner, I want to challenge those of you who attend today to take the knowledge that you gain here and don't just keep it to yourself, but share it with others. As we've had focus groups and met with individuals and families, we've learned really clearly that one of the most trusted sources of information is through family and friends. So thank you for attending tonight, and let's get started with the rest of the forum. Today, our topic is self-direction. We have several presenters and subject matter experts here to provide you with more information. As we move through the presentation, I'll ask that you hold all questions for our staff and presenters until the end. Throughout the presentation, if you do have a question and you don't want to forget it, you can put it in the chat, and then we'll answer any of the questions that have been put in the chat at the end of the presentation. As we noted, this session is recorded, and the presentation and recorded forum will be available on our website, as well as on our social media pages, and sent out to attendees. I'm gonna now turn it over to Diane Salvacci, parent and employer of record for her son Kyle, to share a little bit about her experience with self-direction. So welcome, Ms. Salvacci.
Thank you. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you, Commissioner Sheff, for inviting me to be part of this. I'm humbled. I am a mother of a 34-year-old, almost 35-year-old autistic man who 15 months ago, I finally found a suitable place for him and his special needs dad to live. I'm fortunate that it's not far away, which is a real plus. The case manager helped me to feel comfortable with this transition. As you can imagine, change is difficult for these individuals, but not impossible. We put a lot of things in place to make that transition as seamless as possible. It actually went better than we ever anticipated. We had pictures up because, as you know, a lot of these individuals are very visually driven. So I had pictures of where his bed was going to be, his dresser. This is the kitchen. It really helped a lot to work with the behaviorist. And now that they're in there, not that there hasn't been some bumps in the road, there has, but clearly, you know, autistic or not, what 34-year-old man wants to be with his mom? It was time. It was time. So I just kept looking and I kept looking and I kept looking. And after viewing a dozen apartments, I finally came across one where he used to live, not far where he used to live. And it just seemed to fit. And although, there was a certain amount of ambivalence about that, sometimes you just got to go with your gut and run with it. And we did. And I think most of us can agree that the more independent they are, the happier they are. And I needed to have a comfort level with him living there because I wasn't there overnight. So we'd have in place those Ring cameras at both exits, and I can see the comings and goings. We also have something in place that turns off the oven or the stove after 10 minutes because some things got left on, as you can imagine. And he now bakes cookies. He washes dishes on Saturday mornings, obviously with with his IHS support. That's time to clean the bathroom. It's time to vacuum. Kyle, she doesn't even have to prompt Kyle to vacuum to tell him to vacuum. He knows on Saturday mornings that they have to clean. I think he's actually much better at that than his dad. But I'm very grateful for what, Rachel, our case manager, has set up and put into place to make this transition to go as well as it did. And of course, it surprised all of us that it went so well. I mean, there were some issues, after they moved in, of course, but they've been smoothed out. And after 15 months, he's in a good place and I don't worry about him. And he doesn't really think about me. I think he wants to be more with his IHS provider than he does me, but he knows I'm good for a few things. But I appreciate the support that I have been given and Kyle's been given. And, I'll never lose sight of the fact that autism is part of him, but it's not all of him. He just wants to be independent, just like everybody else. And I believe he is happier. And I guess that's the bottom line. And I just want to thank everything and everyone for their support and making this transition happen for this happy guy.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Salvacci. What parent doesn't want to see their child happy? And you gave a great introduction to our topic tonight. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Amy Blazawski, who's going to talk a little bit. Amy's our self-determination director for the North region, and Amy's going to share a little bit about what is self-direction, and then she and her colleagues will be presenting. Thanks. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner, and thank you, Mrs. Salvaggi, for a great testimony on self-direction and the benefits. Thank you for joining us tonight. You'll be hearing from the 3 regional self-determination directors tonight. You'll be hearing a few stories that bear success in self-direction. Please remember to put any comments or questions that you have in the chat if you're able to. And we're going to take you on a little journey of self-direction. Next slide, please. So a lot of people feel like maybe they aren't having enough choice or control in the services and supports that maybe they themselves or their loved ones need in the process of actually putting a support package together. So I wanted to just sort of give you an overview of what self-direction is and what it means. Next slide, please. So let's look at self-direction in the very bare bones definition that we can give you. Self-direction it's a process, okay? It's a way that we take a path when we're being self-determined in our efforts to meet our goals, meet our wants, our needs. And we've actually at DDS turned it into somewhat of a service delivery model where you can actually self-direct, meaning direct your supports and services in the manner in which you wish to fulfill your needs. And so we basically give the individual or their sponsoring person or employer of record, which we will define these terms later, the authority to choose their supports, to hire and maintain those supports, and to look at other goods and services that may meet their needs in the way that they choose to do so. So really, we want to look at it as a path. Next slide, please. So we're going to actually move into some self-direction success stories. And at this point, I'd like to introduce my counterpoints, Dory Michael-Martusis and Denise Paladino. Take it away, Dory.
Thank you, Amy. So I wanted to highlight some success stories in the West region. And if you could go to the next slide, please, so we can see the picture of, this is Bertha and Nancy. They are roommates and they're aging phenomenally. So I just wanted to share how they self-direct their supports. So just to give you a little background about Bertha and Nancy, they were residing in a nursing facility, decided to move out and get their own apartment, and thus became roommates. I don't know if you could see the picture, but they're wearing their Mickey Mouse ears. So self-directing means you have choice, you have control, much like what Amy said, and much like what Ms. Salvaggi shared about her son, Kyle. So they decided to move into an apartment together, self-direct their supports. Nancy is her own employee of record. So what does that mean? She's able to hire staff. Actually, she interviews the staff first. She interviews them, then she offers them the position to support her, to go to Disney, to go on vacation, to go to concerts. And she's also able to review and approve her own timesheets, being the employee of record. So with picking and choosing their staff, they're able to live their fullest life. They're able to use the life course materials that we have in the individual plan and decide and choose who they want to support them, where they want to live, and how they want people to support them. So I wanted to share Bertha and Nancy's story. I wish I had the video where they went to a concert, where they saw, I believe they saw ABBA in concert, and the characters in the concert came out and actually asked them to dance with them. And you just see them so invigorated and living their best life. So I just wanted to share Bertha and Nancy's story juxtaposed against what Kyle's story is, because he's younger and self-directing. So now we can see someone aging in place, two lovely women aging in place and living their best life and making decisions and self-determination for themselves. I'm going to turn it over to Denise. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Dor. So I just, that I love that story. And I just want to let you guys know that, when you think about self-direction, self-direction could be for anybody of all abilities. As we just heard from Dory, those ladies were living in a long-term care facility nursing home. These two ladies, who I'm so pleased to talk about, I just want to introduce you to Heather and Kimberly. They are also known as Canteen Cuties. These young ladies met in their group home. So they live in a group home. So where you live does not determine whether you can self-direct or self-determine your services. So I just wanted to let folks know that it's not for any particular person or demographic, that anybody can self-direct their services. So in meeting in the group home, both of these young ladies have a passion for food. As like myself, I'm Italian. So I grew up around food. I learned how to make Italian food recipes passed on by my grandmother. And both of these ladies, one had a lot of food experience working with ARC. She had 10 years of experience working in the ARC eatery program. while the other young lady was on a waiting list for the program. So our traditional, employment day services, she wasn't able to get into a program of her choice. That's when the two ladies decided to work with their family members and create their own customized business. So Canteen Cuties is actually a food truck. These ladies not only cook the food, they had to learn to set up an entire business. That means becoming a limited liability corporation, an LLC, consulting attorneys, paying taxes. They have to shop, cook, get the business. So their hobby is now a profitable career for them. They took the chance, the risk, because the traditional services were not available for them. So instead of waiting for another, traditional agency-based services to open up, they created their own opportunities through self-direction. And you guys can find out a lot more information about these two ladies and their business, Canteen Cuties, on our DDS website. We have what's called an advocate's corner, and all of our self-advocate coordinators, there's 10 of them in our entire department, write success stories on folks who self-direct their services. So you'll be able to read a lot more about these two ladies. So I'm going to move on to, I believe, Amy gets back, or maybe Dory. I'm not sure who's coming next.
I'm back.
It's you. Amy's next.
Yes. So next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So an amazing story in the North region. I've been with the department for about 27 years. I was a broker in, let's say, 2005, I think. Alex Johnson was one of the first people that I was working with as a broker, as a young broker. Alex was in school at the time that he was transferred to me as a broker. And I developed a relationship with Alex and his family. He had several medical issues and behavioral concerns at school. He had a one-to-one support through the LEA, his educational entity. And upon entering adult services with DDS, he was able to use a self-directed support model. He had several natural supports in his life. He had many connections through his community, his school, through recreation, and family, obviously. Let's fast forward a couple years ago in my role as a self-determination director, I was able to reconnect with Alex and his dad, Steve. A request came in for Alex for some increased supports due to his dad moving to Florida for work. So I looked at Alex's supports, and surprisingly, Alex was still self-directing with the same direct support professional. So he had a very long-standing relationship with a direct support professional, which we may refer to as a DSP. And due to his dad wanting to, relocate and needing to relocate, we were able to come up with an interesting self-directed creative option whereby Alex could actually live independently in his family home. So we proceeded to look at some assistive technology and talked with his dad, Steve. Initially, his dad was very hesitant, had a lot of trepidation around putting into play some remote supports and some assistive technology to keep Alex safe, while also maintaining his self-directed staff person, Jeff. So we looked at some options We looked at some remote supports that actually Steve, his dad, would monitor. And we found that both Steve, Alex, his support person, were all in favor after learning about how independent Alex could become, while implementing some technology, some self-direction, and some oversight by some natural supports. Now, Alex is living his best life. He's a total rock star in his community. And we are just so proud of Alex and his dad, Steve, for actually, being able to be that person that was ready to step out along with Alex, his son. So kudos to Alex and Steve. Next slide, please.
So why self-direction? So I think my counterparts and I were able to show some success stories, whether it's Bertha and Nancy, who live in their own apartment and self-director supports to hire people to take them to Disney World or to a concert, or just to help them around the house. We were able to see Alex's story, which, he has the flexibility and the creativity of choice of having remote supports, and he's thriving. Canteen Cuties, again, whatever it takes, we like to cook. So what do? We get a food truck, so self-direction fits those spots of that choice, control, responsibility, freedom, authority, whatever it takes, flexibility, and creativity. As I think all the stories that we shared today are creative stories. And we hope down the road, you'll be more curious about self-directing. And also maybe we can down the road have you be a success story if you choose to self-direct your supports. Next slide, please. I think Amy's going to take the next slide.
Amy, are you there?
I'm sorry. I'm here. So the benefits of self-direction, when you're putting self-determined goals into action, you have to look at ways in order to plot out what you want to do and how you're going to do it. So some of the things that we look at in helping people and teams to do that is to look at different tools that we have to use through different planning processes. One is the life course tools, which you can find on our website. If you look up life course trajectory or life course nexus, you'll find a plethora of different tools that you can use to help you to plan for the future with your person-centered planning teams. The trajectory and the star are two of our favorite planning tools, which have also been infused into our individualized plan. So everybody has an individualized plan that has these specific tools that are built into it. And what they're designed to do is to actually help you to plan and help you to plot out what it is that what you need, what you don't need, and where you're going and how to set some very specific objectives for. I also want to mention the IP Buddy, which is another tool and service that we have available. And our self-advocate coordinators are individuals that are supported by the department, but who also are hired by the department to be the voice of the people that we support. So IP Buddy is a very specific sort of tool that we use in our person-centered planning process, where you can have an advocate actually accompany you or your loved one in the individualized planning process. So there's different tools that we can use, many more than are listed here on this slide. But if you're interested in learning more about some of our person-centered planning tools, you can go to the website, or you can connect with either or any of the self-determination directors in your respective region. Again, Denise Paladino is in the South region. I'm Amy Blaze, I'm in the North region, and Dory Michael-Martusis is in the West region, and you are more than welcome to reach out to any of us. Next slide, please.
So we touched upon this, just through the examples of the success stories. And, Dory really summarized it very well about choice and freedoms and flexibilities, autonomy. Those are just the acronyms of self-direction. And as we said many times, through being introduced to some of the folks in our success stories, you could see that folks have varying abilities. And your services can be catered to not only your need areas, but your interests as well. Because that's what makes our lives, full, is being surrounded by the people that we want to be around, live in a place that we feel comfortable and safe and that we choose. Earning money or being involved in activities that give us fulfillment. And that's what self-direction can provide. And also in addition to there, folks might not be sure what services, because if you've never experienced the variety of services, you could combine your supports. It could be self-directed some hours. You can use agency support for some hours. You can use your natural supports through your family or your friends to give you that full circle of support. Next slide.
So we want you to think about self-direction and how that will work for you. But what we really want to stress is that it's a huge responsibility of managing the services, but don't feel overwhelmed by that, because again, we are here to support people. Case managers are here to help navigate those things. There are a lot of life course materials also, so you can look at what natural supports you have along with some of the services that DDS provides. So you are in control of your budget with a fixed amount of money. As Ms. Salvaggi says, Kyle uses his self-directed supports for individual home supports, where he can bake cookies, where he can do his laundry the way he likes to do it. And he gets the support he needs within his apartment. You select and arrange for the services and supports in your individual plan. And we talked a little bit about that through the life course material and what you want to see happen for yourself, and especially with the trajectory. And if you need a little bit more support, you can reach out to one of our self-advocate coordinators and they can support you as an IP buddy. You're accountable for using your budget to more effectively meet your needs and more efficiently use public dollars. So we got some information from, again, Ms. Salvaggi, and the SD director shared stories, some actual testimonials and stories of people who are self-directing. You are the employee of record, like Nancy. She's the employee of record. She has that control. She has that ability to interview people, to retain the staff that she feels is supporting her to meet her needs and live her best life. As you self-direct, you can hire, train, and if need be, fire employees if they're not meeting the mark. So again, we just want to have people explore, look on the website, ask questions, and be ready to take on the responsibility of self-directing their supports. Next slide, please.
As Dory said, being a boss or being an employer, there's a lot to it. It could be scary, but it's exciting and gives you that opportunity to be in a place surrounded by the people that you choose to be with. And you're not out there on your own. As Dory said, we have self-advocate coordinators. You have us, you have the case managers, case manager brokers, supervisors. There's a whole network of people that can kind of help guide you through the whole process. You know, in terms of being an employer of record, well, let's say that you're interested in self-directing, but you're not quite sure, what does it mean to be an employer? What do I need to do other than find staff and maybe give them a schedule and tell them what they need to do? And what else goes along with it? You know, what are the things that I might need support in doing? Maybe you don't feel comfortable, you know, firing someone if they're not doing the right thing. You might need to rely on support of somebody. What if you don't know how to write a job description? You might need some help in doing that. Or in terms of ensuring that your staff are getting paid, completing the timesheet, signing and authorizing, all of those things. Well, we have supports in place. You could self-direct your services. You can have an employer of record, you receiving the services, being the employer of record, or you could receive the services and have someone totally different be your employer of record that you work along with and collaborate on your self-directed supports. You can also have a sponsoring person who would be available to kind of assist you in some areas of directing your services. We have what's called an SDSA. It's a self-directed support agreement. It's one of our tools that outlines all of the roles and responsibilities that an employer of record, someone hiring their own supports, would need to know about when you are an employer, when you're a boss. On that form as well, it's a way of identifying areas that you might need some support in, and who would be that person to help support you. So it's kind of like an agreement, a document that you're understanding all of what it's going to take to be an employer, to be a boss. And the program outlines of what it is to utilize funding for self-direction. Next slide, please.
So as Denise sort of described, you have the support to actually put SD into action. Once you decide that that sounds like a great service model for you, when you want more choice, control, authority over your supports and services, there's a few steps that you need to take in order to start the process and really get going with the supports and services that you need. So here's a little diagram of sort of the first things that you need to do with regard to self-direction. We start with the agreement for self-directed services, which Denise just noted. We look at reviewing the agreement with the employer of record, which could be the individual who's going to self-direct or their sponsoring person. We're going to choose a fiscal intermediary, which is basically the way that you're going to pay your staff. You're going to make sure that you've obtained an allocation so that you have a budget to work with, and then you'll manage and maintain that. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the steps to actually hiring and managing staff. First, you got to find the employees that seem to work for you, right? Because some employees are going to work and have specialized areas of, you know, whether they basically have a strong point with people with autism, or maybe they have a strong point for people that have more physical disabilities. You've got to find the right employees to make sure that offering the job is going to pay off. Then you've got to keep those employees once you deem them appropriate to have on board with your the person that you love or the individual that's hiring them. So these are all steps that may seem daunting, but they actually flow pretty nicely once you get the idea of how to start to engage in the process. Next slide, please.
So, when you're thinking about hiring, most people already have a community that they're connected to in some fashion. Whether it's your neighbors, church, sports activities, folks from school, friends, maybe some relatives. Those folks are already your community. There are already folks there that have maybe the same hobbies or interests as you, or already kind of get to know you as a person, and working together would seem very naturalized. So never discount the fact that you might already have a neighbor or somebody who would make the most ideal staff. The best people are the folks that are already in your lives. So let's have them help you live the most, the most quality life that you can have. Another thing that we have to remember too, when you're a boss, you're posting a job description, you're posting a job. What you want to do is you want to make sure that people understand what the job is. How are they going to help most? What skills and qualifications might they need? What days and times? So you want to be really specific. That's one of the best ways of finding someone outside of your circle, is to make sure that you clearly communicate what it is that you need. And then also, if there's special, unique things, qualifications, put that in the job description. Like someone who might need American Sign Language as example. That's a specialized qualification that someone might need. So putting those specific things in your job description will help kind of weed out the candidate pool, because you don't have it's time consuming, right, to post, to set up job description, to interview, but that's where you're going to get the most person specific staff to be able to hire from. What other things in terms of marketing and how to write a job description? There's plenty of information out there on Google. Case manager brokers, we're always available to help as well. The self-advocate coordinators they're our go-to. They're our resource. They all self-direct their services. They've written hundreds of job descriptions, I'm sure, throughout the years. So they're a great resource as well. Okay, I think we can move on to the next one about recruiting.
All right. So as Denise said, you want to tap into your circle of support. She did an eloquent job of just talking about your neighbors, and, maybe even the cashier up the street might be somebody that you might want to tap in to hire and recruit to support you. You really want people to know what your expectation is as a boss and what you're trying to get to live your best life. So some other places where you can go are colleges, churches, libraries. You can do paid advertisement. If you have a budget, you can work with your case manager to utilize your budget for a paid advertisement. We want to just make sure people know about Rewarding Work and care.com and other websites. And I know a lot of people use social media to recruit people as well. DDS contracts with Rewarding Work. They do have a new access code, which is Connecticut DDS Connect. So also spread the word amongst each other. If you know somebody, I know a lot of people share resources. If they have somebody and it's a issue with geography, sometimes that tends to be a stumbling block for recruitment. But if you network with other people that are self-directing, you can also find support that way as well. Next slide, please.
All right, so how do we take the next step? So thank you, Dory, for explaining a little bit about how we can recruit people. Talk to your case manager. We have another excellent resource that's available to anybody that's interested in finding more about self-direction. We can actually make a referral to one of our partners, public partnerships, for some training. And the training is a free service. We call it Brainier training. And it's not just for people that have made the decision to start self-directing. It's for people that may be curious about self-direction. So talk to your case manager, get a referral to public partnerships for our employer of record training, and learn a little bit more about all the ins and outs, because we have a very limited time with you tonight. So we want to make sure that you're getting the most out of this by providing some new resources and some really great opportunities for training. The other thing that I want to mention is that we do have a peer support network, and that is also conducted through our public partnerships entity. And through the peer support, we look at people that are already self-directing, and we connect you with those individuals so that you can get those real life experiences and make an informed decision, whether you've already made that decision or whether you're sort of on the fence and not quite sure. So at this point, I will turn it over to our Deputy Commissioner Velardo, and thank you very much for listening. And we truly hope that you'll consider self-direction as a new service model for your loved one. And if you're an individual joining on your own, we truly hope that you might consider self-direction as a new self-determination path for you. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Amy. And thanks, Denise and Dory. You provided a lot of information. And I think the stories that you shared, first of all, Bertha and Nancy, I would love to go to a concert with them. They sound like they're lots of fun to hang out with. I love the entrepreneurial spirit that Heather and Kimberly have shown. Alex's story, I just follow as time goes on, it keeps getting better and better. And Mrs. Salvacci, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your story around Kyle's experience. So at this point, we're going to turn it over to you, the participants, to see if you have any questions. I'm going to ask Gunnar to assist me to keep an eye on the chat, and we look forward to a discussion. I do see that one question came up. Gunnar, are you able to see the chat?
Deputy Commissioner, are we moving to the question portion?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I jumped ahead. We have one additional presenter. Varian, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Varian.
Hi.
Varian Salters is a self-advocate coordinator. He works in the North region. Varian and I go back about probably 20 years, I think. And Varian, you're going to share your story around self-direction. So
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Varian Salters, and I'm a self-advocate coordinator at DDS in the North region in the Willimantic office. And my job is to teach people about their human rights and that they have rights and how to speak up for themselves. I start different advocacy groups with agencies. Right now I have 6, and some of them are virtual and some of them are in person and some of them are hybrid, meaning that they're both, some people come virtual and some people come in person. And my groups are Rock and Roll Express self-advocacy group, and that's in Willimantic, Connecticut. And that's the one that's hybrid. And I have a Sisters self-advocacy group, and that's a virtual group. And I have Marico self-advocacy group, which is another virtual group. And I have Opportunity Works advocacy group, which is in person. and the ARC Eastern Connecticut, which is a virtual group, and the Mark of Manchester, which is a in-person group. And we meet like every month, and we talk about lots of fun topics such as voting, healthy eating, healthy relationships, how to stay fit, how to talk to your legislator, how to be independent, and a lot of topics, anything the group wants to talk about. And we always include like a fun game. We call it FAB topic, which stands for Fun Advocacy Brain Power. And I've worked for DDS for 17 years. And the job has changed a lot due to the pandemic. It's a lot more virtual now and computer work and more outreach, teaching people how to use the technology. And some of my positive experiences with self-directing. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I got this job. Basically, probably around 2002, I worked at Bob's Furniture in Norwich, Connecticut. And I was like the maintenance guy. I would change the light bulbs and fill the candy and made sure the bedding was straight and vacuum, built furniture. And I thought to myself, I could do more than this. And I told my job coach, who was from the London County ARC at the time, and told him I wanted to do data entry. And I tried it, but they thought I was too slow at it. And I always wanted a job where I could work on computers and have my own desk. So at the time, it was 2004, and my case manager told me about a job for self-advocate coordinator at what was then DMR, now DDS. And I applied for it, and it took a long time to hear back. But then I finally did. And I was so happy that I was able to have my own desk and computer. And what I did is I got rid of the agency I was working with, and I decided to self-direct my services, and I hired my own job coach to work with me. So self-direction is great. I had a staff named Trin who worked with me for many years. She helped me out at home with budgeting and getting healthy meals together and exercising, cleaning. And then she became my job coach and helped me at work for many years too. I think it was probably around 13 years. And she helped me with PowerPoints and games, and she was a very good staff. And some of my accomplishments using self-direction is in my mid-20s, I always wanted to drive, and some of my supporters, some of my people weren't supported, and some were. And the people that were supportive, they encouraged me to go to a driving school. So I went to a nice driving school, and they let me practice the test online until I was ready, and practice driving until I was ready. And then when I was ready, I went out on the road and I passed the driver's test the first time. And another time that accomplishment using self-direction is when I wanted to get a new car. I wanted to save. So I talked with my sister and mom about I wanted to open an ABLE account. So I sat down with them and I had a special needs trust and I wanted to put all my money from my special needs trust into my ABLE account. And my sister gave me advice not to. So I took her advice and I made a good decision because now I have an ABLE account. And an ABLE account is an account that you could put your money in and it doesn't count towards SSI or DSS. And you put your money in and at the back end they invest it for you. So I was able to buy a 2014 Subaru and I enjoy it. I enjoy driving it very much on the weekends. I love taking country drives. And before I had that car, when I had my own car, I did get in an accident one time. So, but then I was assertive and persistent and got back up and started driving again. And also my ABLE account, I have using that to save for a condo to get in Willimantic. And I also made a booklet for partner and policy on things to consider when buying a house. And ideas to promote self-direction is Life Course is a good tool that helps me out a lot to plan my life and what I want to do, and supported decision making. That means you have your family and your circle to help you make decisions instead of a guardian. So that's one thing that's real helpful. Self-direction gives you more control. And my advice would be try it out.
Thank you so much, Varian.
You're welcome.
I'm going to use that quote. What is it? Assertive and persistent. I think that's the key to a lot of things in life. And I think you are a great representative for self-direction.
Thank you.
You show just what's possible. So thank you. All right. At this point, I will turn it over to Gunnar. I think we have some questions.
So first we'll get to Carol Grabby. She is one of our self-advocate coordinators out of the South region. Carol, you can go ahead and unmute.
Thank you. First of all, I do have a couple of questions because I've been using rewarding work, and Denise was talking about, or Dory was talking about, how there is a new code now for rewarding work. I just wanted to know if that was statewide or if it was just per region.
Dory, Denise, or Amy, can you respond to
So
that?
that is a statewide code that you can use. Anyone can use it. And we encourage you to look at the new rewarding work website.
Because I wouldn't be able to get onto that unless I had the code, because I haven't been on it in a while.
So
Right.
Carol, that's a great question. All you need to do is go on to your Google, your internet, do rewardingwork.org.
Mhm.
That'll bring you up their new website. And
Mhm.
right on the front, it will show you how to register for the first time, or if you had an existing account, because I think maybe you had an existing account. Okay. You click the other side and it'll show you, it'll walk you through how to set up your account on this new website. So it'll show you. It's a very easy process and there's pictures and everything.
And
Okay,
Denise,
I was just wondering what the new code was.
Oh, it's the CT Connect. Right, Dory?
CT.
Yes, I think we could add, I'll add it into the chat so
That-
everybody has it if
Perfect.
Lauren hasn't done it already.
That would be great. Thanks.
Okay, and I have a question for Varian as well. First of all, Varian, great presentation. Varian, when did you decide that you wanted to self-direct your own support?
It was probably in 2004.
2004 is when you wanted to self-direct?
Yep, because I was
Wow,
agent
wow.
before that. And
2000,
I
back in
really like it.
2004. Wow. Okay, well, thank you, Varian. Really appreciate it. And you did a fantastic job. And
Thanks, Carol.
yeah, yeah.
He sure did. Gunnar, what do we have next?
Thank you, Carol. Next in the chat, Kelly Matos wants to know, is IHS or individualized home supports part of self-direction? Also, can an individual hire a parent?
So I'm going to turn it over to Denise. Looks like she's ready. What I want to say is there's, self-determination and self-direction. And I think Amy Blazawski at the beginning of the presentation tried to differentiate for a little bit. And it can be subtle if you're new to it. The difference between self-determining your own life and a self-directed life and the services that we offer. So most of the services outside of our group home services can be combined and utilized with self-directed services, self-hired services. And this gets to the next question in the chat too by my friend Lynn Arazzini. But there are some rules and some guardrails about how they can overlap and how they can be shared and for what specific types of services. But what looks like IHS services, in-home supports provided by a provider, can look just the same with the self-hire approach. So you get the same outcome. And I think one of the things during the support, the step opportunity that we have is I'm trying to move away from what exists or what we have in place and really look forward towards some flexibility and some opportunities that maybe we haven't taken. So we may have some rules in place currently, but if there was a good reason or some rationale, we consider what rules we may need to change. But more specifically to your question, Denise, are you poised to be able to handle that more?
Yeah, yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of self-direction, you can use the DDS funding to purchase any waivered services out there. So individual home services is just one of those options. Could be adult companion. It could be individualized day supports. It could be a healthcare coordinator. So once the funding has been established through our regional PRAD allocation, go work with your case manager and determine what areas of support somebody might need, whether it's to find a job or support in the home. And then in terms of hiring a parent, there are program parameters around that, per our cost standards. So we have program parameters that are pretty much developed into funding guidelines, as well as program parameters around who could be hired, who cannot be hired. If anyone is on the DDS registry, they're prohibited from being a direct hire. A direct guardian or a legal representative also cannot be a paid support. That would be somebody's natural supports, that they would be able to support an individual but not be paid for it. So if someone is a guardian or a representative legal rep, they are not able to be a hired support. I hope that helps answer your question. And in terms, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's all you. If you have more information to add.
Yeah, I was just going to go on about self-direction can be used along with in-home supports, about combining services. We talked a little bit about that. Absolutely. So this is for Lynn, right? And her son, Carl. Self-direction, yes, in-home supports can be with a nonprofit qualified DDS provider agency, can be combined with self-directed services. It could be both for res, one for day, one for res, a couple of hours with the provider, or a couple hours of self-direction. Lynn, you got more to add? Go ahead.
I always have more to add.
That's okay. Go for it.
I also wondered, you answered about the guardian, which is my husband and I. What about a sister?
Sisters, cousins, folks who are not the primary caregiver or the legal responsible person can work with the case manager and be hired with waivered funding. We would need to go through a prior approval in the family hire form. There's certain things that we would need to follow, but yes.
She's already works as a PCA for DDS.
So yes, then.
She's
Yeah.
already, but for obviously for other people.
Yeah.
And she does work through a family grant sometimes for her brother.
Okay, so, yep. So in terms of self-direction, yes, she would just need to be onboarded through the fiscal intermediary. And we would need to have the case manager work with the employer of record, if that would be you, to have the individual family hire form completed through case management. And we send that over to the fiscal intermediary.
Okay, and for one afternoon a week, that would be.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. That's
And I
good to
just
know.
want to, and I appreciate the question, Lynn, and I know that you now have some lived experience, so you're finding new questions as you go along in your journey with Carl. I want to just add to what Denise said. There are some limited opportunities for parents to be paid. The limiting factors, and I think they've already said that, but just to remind people, you can't be the guardian or the employer of record.
Mhm.
If you are neither of those things, then, someone else, may be the guardian, someone else, may be the employer of record, and you're the parent, you could provide those services and get paid. So there are
Yeah.
opportunities. I know that, and in conversations with a lot of families, sometimes there's a little hesitance about the guardianship or the employee of record. But if for anyone else who's new to self-determination and self-direction on the call tonight, I want to let you know that there are possibilities within there. For some other people to be paid. And I'll also share that at the federal level, they are examining those rules and considering relaxing to some degree some of that, but none of that has passed Congress or yet.
Yeah, I think Senator Murphy is working on some kind of caregiver bill right now, doing that. It begs the question, I wonder if it's just a thought to throw out there that maybe it's not such a great idea to have both parents guardians. Maybe it's better to have one parent as a guardian and one as a backup guardian, and then that backup guardian could actually be paid as a caretaker. So just something popped into my head as we're talking.
And I think we are ripe for a conversation like we're having tonight about self-determination, to have a conversation with our stakeholders around guardianship, conservatorship, and alternatives to both of those things. At some point down the line, I think it's too much too soon to start down that while we're working on these other things. But I do hope that we have that opportunity to discuss that further.
Thanks.
You got it, Lynn. Good to see you.
Yep, good to see you too.
All right, so I do see a couple other questions in the chat. The next one comes from Pamela Liming. Pamela wants to know, what services can an individual access using self-direction?
Who wants to take that on?
I can keep talking. Go ahead, Dory. You and I are tag teaming this.
Services
Yeah,
that can be accessed.
I think if we could tag team it. I mean,
Yeah.
Denise did share about the individual home supports. Respite is an option. We also have some behavioral supports where people can look for a qualified provider to provide some behavioral supports and help train the staff on some positive techniques to mitigate some challenging behaviors. Healthcare coordination is another thing that I believe Denise shared when you're looking to have somebody help and support some of those medical appointments and kind of untangle some of the things, the jargon that comes along with medical stuff. So, I mean, I think there's a plethora of things that you can look at. And I see the commissioner wanting to
chomping
chime
at the
in
bit.
too.
We're all jumping in now.
I'm
Go
chomping
ahead.
at the bit, Dory. So let me tell you this, and I learned this lesson from my self-determination directors over the years. One way to think about that is, what services could you self-determine, or what services could you self-direct? A better way to think about it is, what would your best life look like, and how can we help you build a path to it? I think that's really self-determination, right? That's you deciding what you want your life to look like. And if a self-directed service makes the most sense in your trajectory and your life plan, then we'll help figure out how to make that work for you. And I really, and you ladies can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's where you would start with anyone is let's sit down, talk about what you want, what you don't want, and what sort of opportunities we have to help you get there. And then we'll figure out what supports and services fit into your life map.
Yeah, I think that speaks a lot to some of the tools that we've used with our individualized planning process, specifically charting the life course. So as Commissioner Sheff noted, we don't just look at what people want, but we look at also what they don't want, because sometimes it's easier for someone to say, you know, I'm not sure what I want, but I know what I don't want. And so that may be a place to start. Certainly, you know, we look to be creative. We look to be innovative. We try to stay progressive with all of the newest and best practice concepts that are out there. There are going to be some things that we can't provide or cover. That's got to be known, but there are a lot of things that we can creatively construct through the person-centered planning process. And I think that speaks a lot to our new initiatives that are being rolled out as STEP. And so, you know, we do have some constraints, but we want to work with people in the most creative and innovative ways that we can. Dory, Denise, do you have any other comments that you might want to add on that? Dory, I think you're on mute, perhaps.
Sorry, just going to the DDS website for the life course material, the week at a glance, to just really plot out what's needed and where the natural supports are as well, you know, and what you can tap in within your community. Because sometimes too, there are things, to your point, Amy, that you might not want DDS to provide that support, and maybe you can find it out in the community and it's a natural support to the individual.
Right. And outside of natural supports, there are also things that self-direction can afford you that perhaps the Medicaid Title 19 may not. And that includes maybe some services or supports that are outside of what perhaps, you know, traditional insurance may not pay for. A great example of this would be equestrian therapy. Some people like to, or music therapy. So music therapy, equestrian therapy, or some of the non-traditional therapies that traditional insurance may not pay for. Perhaps we could be creative and engage the individual with that particular service as covered by a self-directed budget.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. We do have one last question in the chat. It comes from Alexi Rashan. Alexi wants to know who is available to help with setting up an LLC business. Is this something someone you hire? How do you put it in the budget?
I'll let the SD directors respond, but I will also let you know, Alexi, tomorrow night at the same time, we have a forum on employment. And one of the things that we will talk a little bit about is the innovative employment opportunity grants. You can also search for those on our website. And if you want more information and can't join tomorrow, just let us know and we'll reach out to you to get you some information about that. But I think this goes back to Canteen Cuties. For somebody that wanted to start their own business, how would you go about that?
So that's a good question. So in terms of the budget, we don't necessarily have a line item that would be designated for like an attorney. However, there's a lot of free business resources out there. If you go on the state of Connecticut small business website, there's actually a couple of programs where there's financing and funding available for that stuff. Also, we do have some families that have volunteered to be resources as well, that we can hook Alex up with, so that we can kind of talk about how did they go about it. I know with Canting Cuties, the mom got very involved and she consulted an attorney, and apparently the process was very simple. You just need to pay $250, from what I understand, you pay $250 entity tax fee every year, and just make sure that you file your taxes once you establish yourself as an LLC.
Right.
If I can, Alexi also asked a question about advocating for some specific technology, and I'm not sure that this platform is going to allow her to ask that question or do that any more than text. But with this, I'm not sure where she lives, but would my SD directors reach out to find out more about the technology she's listed in there, and how she might be able to help advocate and promote the use of that technology? I think it's a voice on demand, AAC VOD. And Amy, you may have a better handle on that than me. I think it's a speech device, but I'm not sure.
Sure. Yeah, so any assistive technology or remote support questions that you have, we can certainly connect offline, and there are some resources that we can connect you with to make sure that your question is answered, and possibly you may be able to get those pieces of assistive technology that you need. So I encourage you to reach out to us.
And if I can just ask Varian and Carol, do you know any of the advocacy groups that you work with that really support people with alternative speech, alternative communication approaches?
I don't know of any.
None specific?
Yeah.
I don't either, Jordan.
All right. Well, maybe we can talk with her. You two could talk with her all offline. Maybe there's a room for that in our ever expanding self-advocacy groups.
So I can just kind of jump in quickly. We have a self-advocate in the West region, Paige.
She's on now. She's on now,
in the South region.
She's in my region, and she's on. Maybe Paige can help us.
She's out of the West region.
Sorry, the South region. My. And is Paige on now?
Yeah, she's on. She's smiling away. She's chomping at the bit to answer this.
So Paige is a perfect example of how people that require assistive technology to communicate can be very, very effective in their work, in their daily doings. And Paige, of course, she's a self-advocate coordinator in the South region. We value her perspective greatly, as she is very proficient in using her assistive technology in order to communicate her self-advocacy work. So I hope that Paige will chime in when she's ready.
Paige, I was going to ask you, is VOD voice on demand? Is that what you have that too, right? Where you're able to highlight text and it speaks for you, right? Is that what it's called? Okay, good. Okay. Maybe you could be a really good resource for Alexi. We could touch base. I don't know, Alexi, how can we get in touch with you? Is there a way that we can get in touch with you? Or whoever your case manager is, so we can consult with that person?
We'll have her registration and email address.
Perfect.
Gunnar can help to reach out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Right, and the peer network is also a great way to connect with other people. So we encourage everybody to look at the peer network and our peer-to-peer, thank you.
And I want to know, Alexi's offering to help to teach others to use these devices. And so Paige, we'll connect the two of you, and we can look at how we can tap into your expertise, Alexi.
All right.
Thanks.
I I do see one other question in the chat. It comes from Jane. Jane wants to know, she says, maybe this is too technical for tonight, but wondering if there is one rate of pay for employees or does that vary? How are hours reported?
Oh, okay, Jane, I take a stab at this. Well, so for the direct support professionals, the self-hire folks, there is a collective now we're going to get deep into the weeds, but there's a collective bargaining agreement which staff have to be paid at the minimum rate of pay. There is no cap on the hourly wage that you pay employees. But it's all based, so the number of hours that staff work is all based on the funding allocation and based on the person's needs. So in terms of hours, up to 40 hours is considered straight time. Anything after 40 hours is considered time and a half. And in order to get the most supports, it's recommended that folks do not work over 40 hours. So it's 40 hours per employer of record. A staff person could work for multiple employers. So the rate of pay does fluctuate depending on each person's individual needs, whether it goes from comprehensive, and it also depends on the waivered support. So respite hourly rate is different than individual home support, individualized day supports. But it's also governed by our cost standards as well as the collective bargaining agreement. So we are getting a little into the weeds, but we could talk more offline if you want more specific stuff.
Commissioner, that does it for the chat. Turn it over to you.
All right, well, listen, this has been a really nice conversation, and I know it's a time of night where people have other things they wanted to do and have their dinner and get ready for what's next. I hope that you will, as a reminder, find other opportunities to engage. I hope you'll help us spread the word that we're really looking for as much stakeholder input and involvement as we can get. Whatever ends up coming from our supporting transformation to empower people, it will be greatest with the most input we can get. So everyone hopefully can find a seat at the table. But I'm really glad we had the conversation tonight. I'm really glad we were able to talk about self-determination and self-direction in a way that doesn't show it as something separate and apart from everything DDS has to offer, but shows us as an integral part. And one, I think that Denise or Amy said earlier, for people who really want a lot of autonomy or who struggle to give up sort of control over their lives and hand that off to other people, this is the best way to go about it. But it doesn't have to be the only thing. It can be part of lots of things. So any questions you may have, please, one of the things I always encourage, people come up with thoughts or ideas after the meeting's over. It doesn't mean you missed your opportunity. Maybe talking on mic or typing in the chat isn't what works best for you. Find a way to get us those questions anyway. We'll continue to take them forevermore, and your input, whether you could participate in the meeting or not, is just as valuable. So thank you all for attending tonight. Thank you to my staff. Thank you to the self-advocates, to the families who were on tonight. There were a number of self-advocates, and I didn't mean to look past you, Paige. I just didn't see you when your shining face wasn't in the pictures when I was calling out Carol and Varian. So look forward to seeing you all again soon. Have a terrific night and take care.
Bye, guys. Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.